The story of First Nations soccer player Harry Manson, Hussamalt, and his team, the Nanaimo Indian Warriors, begins in the early 1890s at a time when interest in soccer was rapidly growing in the coal-producing region around the town of Nanaimo on eastern Vancouver Island. The most outstanding of the Indigenous players was Hussamalt, one who leaves his mark, born in 1879, who was compelled at an early age to assume the English name Harry Manson. At the age of 18, he made his competitive debut in a heated rivalry between the Nanaimo Thistles and Snuneymuxw. The Nanaimo Thistles recruited him full-time into their lineup, and they reached the final of the British Columbia Intermediate Challenge Cup against Victoria YMCA. 2 years later, Manson was convinced that they had the necessary talent to compete against the best intermediate teams in British Columbia, and formally organized the Nanaimo Indian Warriors AFC. Manson's athletic abilities and his leadership qualities on the pitch earned him the captaincy of the Warriors. In 1902, Nanaimo would form an all-star team to compete for the Senior Challenge Cup. Eventually, Nanaimo triumphed, and Manson and his teammates became the first Indigenous players to win a British Columbia Provincial Championship. The 2014 Pioneer inductee, Harry Manson.
Now, before we bring everybody up here, because there are quite a number of people, I'd like to call on Mr. Robert Janning, who'd like to come up and say a few words about the recipient of this award. You here? Here he comes.
Good evening. My name's Robert Janning. I nominated Harry Manson for induction into the Soccer Hall of Fame. Feels good to be up here. It's quite an emotional moment. I'd just like to comment on something I heard here tonight. I heard a couple of times we are 123 in the world. I think that's only half true. I think half the members in this room rank much higher in the world rankings, and they do represent this country on a regular basis at the Women's World Cup. And I think, as Mark said, maybe we should listen to women more often. They seem to know what they're doing. I would like to thank the following individuals for making this special evening possible. I'd like to thank Mr. Ron Smale, the Board of Governors of the Soccer Hall of Fame and Museum, the Selection Committee, Robin Gemeindl, Robin McComb, Kim Watson, and I would especially like to thank Mr. John Knox for his phone call this past summer informing me that Harry Manson had been selected for induction into the Soccer Hall of Fame. If any of you happened to listen to CBC Radio this past Friday on The Current, Anna Maria Tremonti's The Current, there was a 22-minute documentary on Harry Manson, which is quite emotional, and I encourage all of you to check that out. I would also like to congratulate this evening all the other inductees tonight. I kind of feel like an imposter up here because I'm a soccer historian and I uncovered the Harry Manson story, so it's his descendants that are the true recipients of this award. I first became aware of Harry Manson and his place in soccer history several years ago while researching my book, West Coast Reign, the British Columbia Soccer Championships, 1892 to 1905. I discovered that Harry was a gifted athlete whose soccer career was uniquely distinguished in several respects. However, it was his exemplary outlook on life at a time when the attitudes of the world around him were rife with prejudice, that inspired me to nominate Harry Manson. All Harry wanted to do was play soccer. The color of his teammates' or opponents' skin was never an issue for Harry, and it was his prowess on the field that made him frequently sought after by non-native teams. Every community needs heroes to look up to, role models to emulate. By inducting Harry Manson into the Soccer Hall of Fame tonight, we are bridging the gap of disparity that has separated First Nations and Canadians for far too long. Today, we formally recognize a Snuneymuxw hero, a First Nations role model, and a Canadian Soccer Hall of Famer. On behalf of Chulcie Malt, I raise my hands to you. Haichka, all my relations. Thank you.
Grandson Gary and great-grandson Adam Manson will now come forward. Special something here for you folks. They'll perform two traditional songs, the celebration song and the working together song. In Sunyemo, in the culture, these songs are a way to honor the spirits of their ancestors and to show respect to the people honoring their grandfather, great-grandfather, and great-great-grandfather. These songs are very fitting, as everyone here tonight is indeed celebrating one of the evening's inductees, or all of the evening's inductees, and the working together song is really what this evening is all about, as Chris Rudge so eloquently said earlier this evening. The stage is yours.
Yeah, I'm just so honored to be here today with my family, with my sister Harriet, my brother Dean, my son Jerome, my son Adam, my daughter Mead, my niece Emmy, my grandnephew Trey, and my granddaughter who ran away, who's sitting down there right now, Mia, and my son's mate, Becky, and my wife, Donna, and of course, my friend, Robert. In our history, we believe that the first man fell from the sky. And when we were down and out about the loss of history of my grandfather, that's what we believe Robert did. He fell from the sky. And he brought us this medicine, who uplifted our spirits. And so grateful for the Hall of Fame organization for recognizing my grandpa. The medicine that it has already brought to my family, and the medicine that it's going to bring to the First Nations people of this country when it sinks in, the recognition that we've been given here. And we've traveled a long way to get here. And I was thinking about my grandpa when we were coming this way, and what he was thinking, that I was flying, you know. That I was flying. It was unreal to come here, and I know that some of them in my party didn't have a dime in their pockets, but found a way to be here, and I'm so grateful to be speaking on their behalf. There would be many, many more here if they could have found the dollars, but I'm so excited about being in your company today. And I'm going to cherish this moment for a long, long time. And we've brought two of our youngest here to witness this feeling, that they'll tell this story 50 or 60 years from now. And I say it to you in my language, hey, Tsapka, thank you.
And joining us right now is the grandson of Harry Manson. What a night, what a day. Congratulations, the First Nations player ever inducted into the Canadian Soccer Hall of Fame. Talk about the emotions and everything going through your mind and your family's mind, sir.
Oh, it was hard to hold the emotions in. I'm very thankful for my friend standing beside me. I inherited his traditional name, Chalsimalt, and all I knew about him was that he died when my father was an infant. And when I went in search of his history, I went to the archives in Victoria, and I found this coroner's report, which wasn't very nice. And it was, calling him derogatory things. And he was run over by a train. And I remember going home crying, because I was very disappointed, because I was looking for something much more. And like I told you about our culture, when we think the first man fell from the sky, and when my friend beside me here dropped into our lives, it was sort of like that. Somebody dropped out of the sky to lift our spirits and to bring this pride to our family. And we've shared many, many tears together, my friend and I, and on my porch, thinking about what was transpiring. And the more that he dug, and the more inspirational stories that he came forward with, and we'd sit there and we'd cry again. And I remember him telling me that he was going to try to induct him into the Hall of Fame, and I thought, whoa, that was even beyond my wildest thought. And then to get the call, and the tears just started to flow, thinking about that. And it was so emotional. And I remember phoning my family, and I couldn't, because I couldn't stop crying for a good hour. But it was a happy cry, and it was hard not to show that on the stage. But I knew we were in this place of great honor, and I wanted to make sure that the people being honored were the athletes, and I just wanted to kind of be here for my grandpa and show a little bit of where he came from. So that's the emotion that our family feels, that there would have been a lot more of us here if we could have gathered the dollars together. But that's the pride that we have.
Quickly before we go to this wonderful gentleman, you talked about tears, emotion, and joy. A lot of us out in the audience, myself included, had tears in our eyes listening and watching that performance. Unbelievable. I've been to 7 Hall of Fame dinner inductions. Never, ever have I ever seen a beautiful performance and something that tugged at the heart. Talk about that.
I think it's sort of it comes from in here, that the song that we sang, and that song was composed for when we are letting go of our loved ones when they pass away. That's when that song was composed. And when we lose a loved one, there's a certain custom that we follow when that our ancestors come to retrieve the spirit of our dead relative. And we also use it for when we are calling them forward for some occasion. Such an occasion was tonight, and a happy occasion for those of us that are walking on this earth, and for the relatives that have gone by. I know that they're here in this room with us. And because I've been thinking about him and my mother and father who are passed also, and all the relatives that needed to hear this good news and who aren't here today.
Well said. Thank you for that, sir. What a night it has been. Harry Manson, First Nations player to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. You were full force behind this. Why? What drove you to get this man into the Hall of Fame? Why?
It was a healing journey for me. I have a history with drug and alcohol abuse, and somehow this was laid in my path. It feels like it was meant to be that I uncovered this history. For many, many years, it didn't feel right to be who I am, which is kind of similar to Harry Manson's story, feeling that it wasn't right to be a red man with the residential school system, the reserve system, the racism that went on in that era. And Harry trying to be white and me trying to be who I was not, it didn't work. And Harry's life came to an end at a set of railroad tracks, and I was given a second chance at a set of railroad tracks, which is where I did a lot of drug consumption. This is very emotional for me. My friend Gary, every time we finish a phone conversation, his parting words are, "Robert, I love you." When I catch him out of the corner of my ear saying to my parents, "Thank you for your son," that's the greatest reward that I can have. I feel Harry is with us right now. I can see him smiling and winking, and he is not going to be forgotten anymore. And I thought of Pele's retirement in Giant Stadium when he played half a match for Cosmos and half the game for Santos. And before the game, he addressed a crowd of 75,000 people. And he said, "Repeat after me 3 words, please." And he said, "Love, love, love." And that is what I felt here tonight. I felt an outreach of love by Canada's soccer community, the Ontario Soccer Association, and the Soccer Hall of Fame, embracing a First Nations athlete who died over 100 years ago. And I think Countries, just like people, are not perfect, but I think what exemplifies Canada is that we strive to do better, to make this world a better place for our children. And I'm very grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Robert, Gary, thank you so much. Harry Manson inducted into the Soccer Hall of Fame. All he wanted to do was play the beautiful game we love so much.